welcome. My name is Brittany, and thanks for stopping over at No Gluten, No Problem. Today we're going to be making gluten-free KFC bowls that you're sure to love. All right, our ingredient list today is gluten-free chicken tenders. This brand also comes with, they make a chicken nugget, so you could use either or. These are awesome. They taste amazing. You can make them in your oven or your air fryer. We're gonna need some cheese. This is cheddar cheese. You can use whatever kind of cheese you have in your fridge. Corn. This happens to be organic corn. Corn is pretty genetically modified, and so if you get organic, it's a better for you option. We've got some potatoes. You can use any kind of potato, red potato. These are russets. Salt and pepper. I mentioned this in the last video, but this Better Than Bouillon chicken base we're going to use to make our gravy, along with tapioca flour. And this is made from a cassava root that they dry out and grind. And then that's pretty much all for today. Let's get started. We're going to start by peeling our potatoes. And while I am peeling, I would love to hear the reason or why you had to start eating gluten-free. And how did you feel after you started eliminating gluten from your diet? My story starts probably about 12 to 15 years ago. I had just had my fourth child and I was feeling tired, but who isn't when they have 4 kids? And I just thought that was just how life was. I'm not getting a lot of sleep. I'm burning the candle at both ends. And so I was just feeling so exhausted. And we were gearing up, my husband and I were gearing up for our 10th anniversary, and we were gonna get to take a trip, just the 2 of us, to Florida. My mom and brother were gonna fly in from Montana. At that time, we lived in Missouri. And so we were super excited. We get ready to leave. We get to Florida, and I feel terrible. I'm so tired. My head feels so spacey and foggy. And I wondered if I had a brain tumor or what was going on. I couldn't get enough sleep. I would take a nap and feel like I hadn't even closed my eyes. And I remember following my husband in Florida, and we had to walk like half a block. And I just felt like my legs were cement and I couldn't put one in front of the other. And so I told myself, once we get back into town, I'm gonna make a doctor's appointment. Go ahead and keep peeling your potatoes. When we got back from Florida, I went to the doctor and they do the whole blood panel, and I realized that my thyroid was in rough shape. And then upon further lab work, I realized that I had an autoimmune disorder called Hashimoto's. And that's basically where your immune system attacks your thyroid. And so I had an underworking thyroid, which is why I felt so tired, so sluggish, brain fog, all these things. Your thyroid is kind of like the engine to your body. And so with that being attacked, and I had just ignored all the symptoms, thinking it was just life, I was just in really rough shape. And so the doctor had me start on a couple different thyroid medications. And somewhere along the line, it was recommended that I eliminate gluten from my diet. All right, I just finished peeling all my potatoes. I would say that, because we're gonna be making mashed potatoes, for every person that you're gonna feed, you'll probably need about 1 to 2 regular potatoes, because once you mash them, it just seems like you need about 2 potatoes per every person you're feeding. So at that point, once I got all my lab work done, I started to eliminate gluten. And that was really difficult, because who wants to quit eating all the good gluten things? The bread, the donuts. Even what I found out is there's gluten in so many things. You go to a restaurant and they put gluten in the hamburger meat to make it go further. And you go to use maybe a hair product, and who knew that there would be gluten in body products? And so it's been a long journey for me, but I realized once I started eliminating gluten from my diet, it actually made me, along with other things, start to feel better. And I had felt, sometimes you don't realize how bad you feel till you start feeling better. I realized that I had felt so bad for so long that I didn't know what it felt like to feel good, refreshed, energized, all the different things. So it was a slow process, and now I've been completely gluten-free for probably about 10 years. And they've come out with so many different foods and products that are good replicas for the gluten version that I don't even feel like I miss it anymore. So I would love if you guys can take a minute to comment when and why you started eliminating gluten from your diet. All right, all my potatoes are peeled. I usually chop these up in smaller chunks so they cook faster. You do you and how you typically make mashed potatoes, but you can cut them in 4/4 or 6/6, whatever you prefer. All right, let me chop all these potatoes, and then we'll be back to cook the corn and get the chicken in the oven. All right, we're gonna put the potatoes on the stovetop to cook. And while those are cooking, we'll get everything ready. Some people like to put salt in the water while they cook potatoes. If you wanna do that, feel free. I'm not gonna put any in my potatoes. I'll season it at the end. Corn, this is sweet corn, but you can pick whatever kind of corn you want. We're gonna throw that in a pan and cook it on the stove as well. You can cook this on low heat because it'll take a while for your potatoes to cook. All right. I just got word. I have, like I mentioned, I have 6 kids, and one of them just started golfing with the school. And so today was supposed to be his first golf tournament, and it just got canceled because of the weather. We are finally having a beautiful day. It's 70 degrees and sunny, but I guess there's wind and rain in our forecast. So who knows what kind of weather we'll get tonight. So potatoes are cooking on the stovetop. The corn is cooking on low. Like I said, you can salt your potato water, you can salt your corn water, or you can just wait until the end. This chicken, we go through so much of this at my house. It's perfect for so many things. It's quick and easy. Kids love it. And I think it's made with rice flour. Yeah, it is. It's made with rice flour and corn flour and cornmeal. And I don't have an air fryer. I don't have a lot of fancy kitchen gadgets, so I always cook mine in the oven. But if you did have an air fryer, it'd be great in the air fryer as well to cook. So if you have any fun kitchen gadgets that are a must-have, let me know. I have a big blender, and that's about it. And it's about how wide and far I go with kitchen gadgets. So let me know if you have any that you love that I need to know about. Okay, I shredded some of my cheese. One thing I wanted to mention that I have learned throughout my discoveries, I'm using cheddar. You can use any kind of cheese that you like. You just want to be careful if you're trying to avoid dyes. They actually put a lot of yellow dyes in like cheddar cheese to make it yellowish orange. So try and make sure that if it is colored, it's colored with like annatto that's from a plant versus like yellow dye that's also inflammatory. So I shredded up my cheese, and then we're gonna move over and start making our gravy. All right, we're moving and grooving. I moved things around so we can start to make our gravy over here. This is a really easy, simple gravy. You can doctor it up on your own if you like to. I'm gonna start with about 2 tablespoons of butter. Probably on every video I'm gonna mention how much our family loves butter. So we'll let that melt. And what I use for almost all of my sauces, gravies, soups to thicken things up is, like I mentioned, the tapioca flour. I feel like it's tasteless. It does seem like it has a little bit of a, I don't want to say slime, but a different texture to it. But it's worked well for us. We've tried to use different things in the past to thicken that are gluten-free, and I just have landed on this one. I like it the best. Okay, we're gonna be making about 2 cups of the gravy. And so I have my butter melted in a pan. I'm gonna take my tapioca flour, and I'm gonna take about a tablespoon of it and dump it into my water that I have over here. It's just like cornstarch. You wanna put it into the cool liquid before you heat it up. Otherwise it just clumps up and then you can never get the clumps out. So go ahead and throw that into your water. This is super, super fine too, so it's easy to make a huge mess. But so I threw that into my water. Now I'm gonna stir it up into the cold water. Get all the clumps out till, use a fork, till it's thoroughly stirred. We're gonna turn down our heat and pour it in slowly. All right, perfect. And then I mentioned this in a video the other day. We're gonna use this as well. It's 1 teaspoon per 8 ounces of water. So since we're making a couple cups of gravy, you're gonna wanna throw 2/3 of a tablespoon in there. And you can always add more if you want more flavor. That's what's so nice about this. Otherwise, you can use the chicken stock, but you'll want to do the same thing we did with the cool water. Throw your tapioca powder in the chicken stock before you heat it up. Otherwise, it'll clump. So we're going to take our whisk, and we're just going to whisk this up, and then just like a corn starch, excuse me, as it heats up, it'll start to thicken up. So while that is heating up, we're gonna throw some black pepper in there. And if you want any other spices, if you wanted oregano or any flavoring in there, you could throw that in as well. I'm gonna leave it plain for today other than some pepper. We'll let this heat up, and like I said, as it heats up, it'll start to thicken up. This is what it's looking like. We have the gravy, the corn, the potatoes are still cooking. All right. And we're gonna throw the chicken in the oven. Our potatoes are almost done, and then we'll mash them. And you could use a smashed potato, a fried potato, a baked potato. What I do is I add butter and cream and mix it up with our big blender, but up to you and up to your preference. All right, mashed potatoes. I took the potatoes off the oven. I left a little bit of potato water in there. I'm gonna throw a good glug of whipping cream in there. You can use milk, or you don't have to use any milk at all. You can just use the water. We're gonna throw some salt. We didn't season it with salt before, and you'll wanna remember that we are making gravy, so that is salty as well. We're gonna throw some pepper in there, and let's mix it up. Okay, potatoes are mashed, and here's how those turned out. Corn has been cooked through, the chicken is done, and our gravy is also done. You can kind of see how nice and thick that turned out. That tapioca flour really works great. All right, let's dish up. We are gonna start with our potatoes. Done, check. Followed by our corn, check. Followed by gravy. And then we're gonna cut up our chicken. You can do these in any order that you wish. Then we're gonna sprinkle with our cheese. Dinner, lunch, whatever you wanna call it, is served. Thanks so much for being with me today and this week. You know, when I started this channel, I hadn't done a video before, and so I know they've been lumpy and bumpy, and so thanks for coming along for the ride and being gracious to me this week. Thanks so much, and we'll see you tomorrow with a new video.